Hello there folks, and a very warm welcome back to What's for Tea, and warm festive greetings to you all. I hope that I find you very well indeed. And today I've made this amazing toffee apple crumble pie, also known as caramel apple Betty. It's the perfect combination of two of my favourite desserts, which is apple pie and apple crumble. So I'm just going to show you how I'm making this, and as usual all of the ingredients will be underneath the video in the description box. It's a bit of a longer video just because you've got the toffee layer, the apple layer and the crumble layer, as well as that pastry. So I'm going to show you how I'm making this, so yeah, buckle up and enjoy. So I'm using condensed milk, I'm using golden syrup, I've got some soft brown sugar and also some butter, so that is for your caramel layer. For the crumble I'm using the same soft brown sugar, I've also got some plain or all-purpose flour, some very cold butter from the fridge and some cinnamon. And then for the apple layer, or for the apple sauce, depending on how long you cook this, just a few ingredients again. You can use salted or unsalted butter for all of this. I've used salted. So I've got some lemon juice, some salted butter, I've got some Bramley apples, flour, nutmeg, cinnamon and a pinch of salt. And for the apples I'm using white sugar. So the first thing you want to do is peel and core your apples. Like I said, I am using Bramley apples, but use whatever apples you prefer. So just peel your apples. I am using an apple corer, but if you don't have a corer, just cut round the core. You know, it really doesn't matter. But when you slice these, try and get them roughly the same thickness, just so that they cook at the same time. Transfer those to a bowl, and then to that I'm going to add my lemon juice. It's going to help keep your apples nice and bright, plus it'll give it, you know, a wee bit of extra zing. To that I'm going to add the white sugar and then the spices. So I've got a wee bit of nutmeg, I've got the cinnamon and then a pinch of salt as well, just to cut through all of that sweetness. So pop that on top, and then to this I'm going to add some flour. This is going to help thicken up your apples so that it doesn't run everywhere when you cut into it. So just give those a good stir together, and then we're going to gently cook these off in the pan. So I'm using a frying pan again. I've got a wee knob of salted butter. Get that nice and hot, and then to that you want to add your apple mixture. I'm going to cover this with foil because I don't have a lid big enough, but you want to cook these for about 15 minutes, just until they're starting to break down. But you may have to come back a couple of times, just give them a good stir. This is the tin that I'm using here. This is a 9-inch or 23cm tin. Because it's quite a deep fill pie, I did want to use a loose bottom tin just to make sure it's easy to come out at the end. I am using this pastry here, but if you're good at pastry, feel free to make your own. So you want to roll this out, and unfortunately this wasn't big enough to cover the top of my tin, so I'm going to use a rolling pin just to make it a bit bigger so that it fits over the top of the tin. So I'm just going to roll this all the way to the edge of that paper, then remove it from the paper and just flip it on top of your tin. Gently lift up the skirt from the side and it will naturally fall in to your tin. And then with my knuckles I'm just going round the inside edge to make sure it's well pressed in, and then with the back of a knife I'm just getting rid of that excess pastry just to neaten things up. I'm going to blind bake this in the oven, so you want to prick this all over with a fork just to make sure it doesn't puff up as it bakes. Pop some baking paper on top of that, and I'm going to use some baking beans just to hold the pastry down, but you can use rice or pasta or lentils, whatever you've got, just to make sure it's weighed down. Give this about 20 minutes in the oven just so that it starts to cook. You want to cook that pastry about halfway. Get back to your apples, and if you're happy you can turn your heat off and then move on and do the crumble layer. By the time you come back, those will be cool enough to put straight in to your pastry. So grab another large bowl to make your crumble, and we're going to use the same soft brown sugar. Pop that into a bowl, and then to that I'm going to add the plain flour or all-purpose flour, and then I'm going to add my cinnamon. Give this a wee stir around just to make sure everything is well combined. And this is some really cold butter from the fridge, and you want to work the flour into the butter. This will take you about 4 or 5 minutes, and you're looking for something that resembles wet sand, just like this at the end, and that is your crumble done. So get back to your apples and they should be looking something like this. You can cook these for longer if you want it a wee bit finer. I quite like the chunky apples. Then get your pie out of the oven, take your baking beans out, and you should have something that looks like this. Your pastry should be about halfway or 3/4 of the way cooked. And then we're just going to add the apples in, give them a wee smooth out with a spoon, and then you can add your crumble on the top. You can make this as chunky or as flat as you like. I wanted to flatten this down slightly because I'm going to add the the caramel sauce to the top. So I wanted it nice and flat, but you don't have to flatten it out if you prefer it looking a bit more chunky. So back into the oven for 20 to 25 minutes, just to make sure the pastry and everything is well cooked. So when your pastry's got about 5 or 6 minutes, you can actually go on and make the caramel so that when your pie comes out of the oven, you can just put your caramel straight on. So again, with some butter, and then the sweetened condensed milk, and then the golden syrup. But like I said before, if you can't find golden syrup, light corn syrup will do. And then on top of that, I'm going to add my soft brown sugar. You just want to mix these together until they're well combined and starting to melt, and then bring everything up to a boil. You want to boil this for about 5 minutes, but you will need to, stay with it and stir it just to make sure that it doesn't stick to the bottom of your pan and burn. So get your pie out of the oven. It should be looking something like this. Get back over to your caramel and give it a quick stir together, and it should be looking something like this. Go over to your pie, and I'm going to add my caramel directly on the top. You can make this as thick or as thin as you like. Don't make it too thick though. And then you want to leave this to the side just until it sets. You don't have to refrigerate this or anything. This will set at room temperature because you do want it, nice and warm. You don't want this cold because we're going to have this with some vanilla ice cream. And if it's warm, it's all just going to melt together and be absolutely delicious. So once you're ready and it's going to cut nicely, grab yourself a nice wedge, and I'm going to pop this onto a plate with another wee bit of caramel with the pie in the middle, some vanilla ice cream balancing on the top, and I'm just going to put a wee bit of drinking chocolate or cocoa powder onto the top. And this was, let me tell you, absolutely delicious. And you'll get between 8 and 10 servings out of this. Because it's very, very sweet, you're obviously not going to have a massive wedge of it. So thank you so much for watching and sticking with me throughout, what was quite a long video. So yeah, thank you all very much. And a huge thank you, as usual, to the supporters of the channel over my Patreon page, to the channel members here on YouTube as well, and for you all for watching and leaving your lovely comments. And like I said, for those that share the videos, it's all very much appreciated. And I will catch up with you during the week for another wee recipe. So until I see you, mind to take care of yourselves, and I'll see you off as soon back here on What's for Tea. Take care. Bye for now. Bye now.